Welcome everybody to the meeting this morning, especially those that's joining us by Facebook or whatever. Glad you're able to watch us. Humbly try to, do the county business. We're in a time where we're learning as we go. We're just going to do the best we can to keep the county moving forward and doing everything we can to protect the citizens. So this time I'll call the meeting to order, and as always we start our meetings with prayer and ask Mr. Coleman to lead us in a word of prayer.
Thank you. Let us pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning to thank you for another day that you've given us. Lord, we just ask today, God, that you would please bless each person here at this table and our county leadership with wisdom, God, to make the right decisions for our community. We thank you for your hand that's been upon us, and we just ask, God, that you'd continue to be with us through this crisis and that you would heal our land. And we thank you for your many blessings, and these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So, Mr. Booth, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next order of business will be approval of minutes for March the 10th, 24th, and 25th. Is everyone here for them?
Yeah.
You want to just take them all? Lump sum?
I move that we approve the minutes for March 10th and March 24th. I didn't see any issues.
Yeah, I have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? Ms. Morris?
Ms. Cookenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I failed to mention a minute ago that we have one member that's absent this morning, Mr. Yoders, and he may be joining us later. And next is the approval of our monthly disbursements.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Motion and second, any other discussion?
That included ones this morning.
Yep, the additions.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Cookenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Constitutional officers called in, and of course it's not time yet.
None replied that they expected to.
Go ahead and do what yours is.
Okay. First item is the subdivision plats as approved by the agent for March. Ms. Turman is working from home, but I'll be glad to relay any questions along to her.
Have any questions or comments?
The next item is the appointment to the County, Town, EDA, and School Board Strategic Planning Subcommittee. This is a 2-year term. This would be to reappoint Mr. Turner.
I make a motion, we reappoint Mr. Turner.
Second.
I guess I got it.
Yep.
Ms. Cookenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes. Okay.
Motion carries.
Don't matter at this point.
There you go.
Congratulations.
We just taking care of it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The next item is an appointment to the New River Mount Rogers Workforce Development Board for a 3-year term. This needed to be a business representative. We received no letters of interest. Do I have any ideas? The last
Are
person.
you
that-
serving on this, or is Lauren?
No, this is the Workforce Development Board. It's not,
Under.
it's not the chief elected
Oh,
officials.
okay.
Right.
This is made up of different, business reps, they'll have folks from education, industry, different reps.
We had served.
Who was our last one?
It's the Human Resources Director from Citizens.
Citizens, right.
They're not interested.
Yeah, she didn't reapply. I think she had put her resignation in a few months ago.
Is this something we need to advertise for?
We did,
Oh,
we didn't
still
do
didn't
anything.
get-
When
This
is
is
it?
such a,
When is the meetings?
They usually meet once a month in Whitville. I think Marty had been talking with someone from H&B, but I guess they weren't interested.
huh.
That's somebody we can draft.
Well,
This will need to,
If you can find out what day the meeting is and what time, I guess we could start searching. If we come up with 2 people, we'll interview
Yeah, I
them,
mean-
and, you know.
I know they meet during the day in Whitville, but I don't know what day of the month it is. And they don't meet every month, it's every other quarter like Cleo does,
Oh, so they meet like twice a year, or?
every other month.
Oh, every other
so
month.
6 meetings a year?
Mm.
Yeah.
We had tried before to get maybe a small business owner,
Yeah.
but, it's hard for them to
Yeah.
be away from their business during the day.
This is shaping
Harder
up
now.
more to be you.
Hmm.
This is shaping up more to fit your.
Don't want elected officials.
No. You don't have any ideas, you can.
Okay.
Do they have any farmers on this committee? Do you know who the makeup is?
I'm not sure.
That pulled you back in. Or someone associated with agriculture in some way?
That's something we can check on.
Yeah.
Usually it would be good to check on.
Yeah, if
Yep.
they don't, I think we could look at a farmer to.
Yeah, sure.
Because every business owner I know of right now is just doing the best they can. to
Yeah.
stay above water.
Much less taking time off to run somewhere. But maybe somebody out of the agriculture sector will.
Okay. The next item is an amendment to the agreement with the Virginia Department of Forestry. The county's original agreement was executed in March of 2003 with forestry. This was for the construction of a pole shed on the landfill property where they store
Right.
their equipment. And the agreement was for 15 years. I just happened to see that it had expired when I was looking for something else in the file, so that's on me. And after talking with them, they thought it might be easier if we just do it on a yearly renewal, automatic renewal, instead of trying to have somebody remember this
Keep
for
track.
15 years.
Seriously.
And then, of course, if either of us wanted to terminate it at any time, we could, so.
With 6 months' notice.
Yes. We've not had any issues with them having their equipment there.
Right.
They have a key to the gate and they go in and out as they need to.
Keep it locked up.
That's pretty
Yep.
located.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I move that we accept the First Amendment to the agreement with the Department of Forestry, originally dated 21 March 2003.
Motion and second, any other discussion?
Authorizing me to execute.
Yes,
that.
I'm authorizing you to execute, of course, yes.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah,
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Ms. Cookenberry?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Terman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. The last item is our audit engagement letter with Robinson Farmer Cox. This is our annual agreement letter with the auditors to their responsibilities, and it also outlines our county staff responsibilities as far as the audit. We just need a motion to approve that and authorize Chairman Turner and I to execute. And just as a side note, this is the last year of our agreement, 3-year bid contract, so we'll put this out for bid later this year.
In best of my memory, this is pretty much boilerplate, isn't it?
It is.
I didn't,
It is.
I didn't see anything that jumped out to me that changed or,
They use the same letter,
Yep.
changed today.
I'd make that motion when you're ready.
I'll second.
Motion and second, any other discussion? Ms. Morse?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Cookenberry?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Told you 8:45.
There you go.
There you go. Is it 8:44? Is it really 8:44? Yeah, it is.
We're just about done.
Did we have any letters for public comment?
We did not receive any.
No phone calls or no, what about on,
No, I don't need to keep time.
well, that's good. I mean, well,
Yeah.
it's bad, but
Yeah.
it's, keeps things rolling.
And was David gonna be here? Is he calling in?
Calling him.
He's gonna call in?
Yeah, last time I heard that he changed that, he thought about coming, but I had talked to him about some stuff, and he said that
He was gonna
he
call
was
in?
probably gonna call in after the storm and everything comes through. and
Sheesh.
everything, so.
Yeah, that was quite a storm, wasn't it?
You can go down to number 9, and any members got anything you want to discuss or bring up?
I do not have a one more thing today.
Okay.
He wants to get out
But
at
that wouldn't
8:45.
qualify, that wouldn't qualify under this. One more thing comes at 3:15. For the moment, you're all right.
I did leave you a copy of a note about a road closure.
Yeah.
On the table for you.
Yeah.
Carol had sent that this morning.
Did it wash out because of the storm, or? Do you know?
He didn't say, this looked like, well, he says a planned state forest
Yeah,
bridge maintenance.
yeah, I guess, yeah.
But, he said they had been working very diligently on storm damage and hope to have everything back up in shape by the weekend.
Well, I met 2 graders this morning, I was wondering if they worked all night. You know,
Yeah,
that's
seriously.
what they usually do.
Yeah.
It seemed like this end of the county got it a little worse than we did, but with my rain gauge, we still got 5 inches.
Is, I take it this, whatever's going on is being paid for out of their bridge maintenance money or some other than, rather than taken out of our secondary road money?
I would think so.
Well, I would think so too, but it doesn't specifically say, and I don't recall being requested to concur with them closing the road and doing work on the bridge before, so
Not this one.
could we, I mean, would be.
We can ask Mr. Clark.
Let's ask Mr. Clark about that, because if we're concurring and the money's coming out of secondary road money instead of bridge money, that could be a problem.
Yes.
Part of this has been on their books because it's not scheduled April 27th.
Yep.
It's not a storm.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you recall them asking for concurrence on something like this before?
They hadn't even asked you about your district.
Well, see, that's what I'm,
Yeah.
that's what sends a red flag, and I wanna know where the money's coming from before I concur.
Yeah, usually they'll just send us notice that the road's closed.
Right, that's why I'd send a red flag. if-
I know they've got some major pipe replacements on Conard Road Road, everything that they've already made us aware of, but I hadn't heard about this one. Check with Mr. Clark on that. Well, looks like we sort of at a standstill until 9:15 when Mr. Clark calls in, so. I guess
Time?
we can end production for a few minutes. Those on Facebook, we'll be back at 9:15 when Mr. Clark is due to be here.
Any comments?
When, the night before, because we had heard all the, predictions of tornadoes and besides just all the rain, and actually I kept getting alerts from the National Weather Service on my phone of various sightings of tornadoes, not in our direct area, but in Tazewell and Halifax County and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, the storm the Thursday before, that wind did more damage. It appeared, the straight line winds that came through
Yeah.
with thunderstorms,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
tore
that's probably Friday, I think it was Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday night into Friday morning, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you guys have done a great job. I mean, they jumped on it. They've really been busy, so.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a tough one to do, and of course, we're still trying to, comply with all the various virus-related protocols. But when emergencies there, you gotta respond to that. So, I guess.
Let me put them back on Facebook here right quick, and then we'll get right back to you, David. So,
Okay.
okay. Our next order of business is having, our next business is with Mr. David Clark, Virginia Department of Transportation. He's online with us. Go ahead, David.
All right, well, good morning. Not a lot of updates that directly relate to work accomplished over the past month and few weeks, other than to say there's been a couple weather events that we've had to respond to. In particular, last night with the flooding and everything, and trees and wind, and we've had to modify our crews and our shifts a little bit based on the governor's direction on distancing, but we are, VDOT is essential workers, so we are all allowed to come into work, we're thankful for that. But in Floyd in particular, just kind of let you know what we're doing is that we've got two crews, one in Willis and one in Czech, and they both have fairly old meeting rooms that they've been typically meeting in. It's very, very tight in there, so we split the crews so you don't have about 12 people or so in a very small building, and they're trying to meet more in the kind of in the truck bays outside where there's a lot more air. They can stay apart a little bit. We've also taken several of the guys from the Willis area and from the Czech area and had them go ahead and just meet at the Floyd lot, which we still have, the one just south of town,
Right.
on 221. That's still available to us, and so we've been utilizing that, and we can store equipment there, and it works well to kind of split our crews. And some of them live closer to that spot anyway, and can get to some of the work in the middle of the county better anyway.
Yeah.
Just a couple little things I know that we've been trying to get, it's being springtime, trying to get out with the graders on a lot of these gravel roads. Of course, yesterday's weather might have undone a lot of that work. But they did put some pipe in on Roger Road and on Stagecoach. We're starting to do the patching work for the upcoming paving schedule. I know they've been patching on Moore Road. That's going to get, I believe, some surface treatment on Moore. Some of the paving that's going to go on is on Indian Valley, Post Office Road, some of Franklin Pike, some of Allen Ridge, and on Stonewall. And I can get the exact spots to you. I'll send you an email that's got that. There's also going to be some on Route 8 and on 221. Black Ridge Road will also get some paving as well. But I'll send all that out to you. So we'll over the next few weeks and a couple months, we'll be patching ahead of those routes, as well as trying to keep up with the gravel roads. We are going to have a discussion this morning here in my office about how we're going to do the upcoming construction, secondary road construction projects. We've got several projects in the 4 counties we do. Quisenberry and Mill Run will be ready to go, so we may look to do some of those. It's just a matter of how we can do the crews and how much we're not sure how much we'll be able to do this season, and hopefully this may all be over here in a month or so, and most of our summer work will proceed as normal. Other than that, I don't have any other updates. I'd spoken to Mr. Booth on the phone a little while ago, and I mentioned a couple of things that we're still pursuing. One I thought was going to happen quicker is the brush and the trees under the bridge there on Route 8. We are going to have to do a separate quote for that, so that's going to take a little bit longer than I had indicated. And for Supervisor Coleman, we have been talking about the process for naming some bridges or structures or spots, and I've got that into our central office, but of course central office people have been told to stay at home and do all their work from home. You don't have a whole lot of things going on in the central office that are new like that, so they kind of put a hold on that, but I will keep that on my checklist to be sure that we get to when we can get a little bit more back to normal. But
Thank you.
That's all I have as far as an update goes, but I'd be glad to answer any questions or requests.
This is Jerry. You were talking about the patching and stuff, that stuff. Also, don't forget, if you would, we had talked about top coating lumber lane.
Yes.
And if you'd said if it didn't get done this past fall, it'd be sometime this spring. I don't know if we can work it out where that could be done in the evening and at night or whatever. That's a high traffic road there, and it's gonna be top coated. The business there is pretty well swamped most of the day.
Yeah.
But also, you mentioned that high water and down at Route 8, the bridge.
Yeah.
Of course, we're gonna have to wait on it to dry out again.
Again, yeah. There's a problem up here.
Also, besides taking that brush out, will you go, or is it scheduled to go ahead and take whatever you can out down to what they consider the high water line as well?
Right now, we're just trying to get a tree and brush crew in. It'll be a separate crew to take out any other sediment that we might be able to do.
Okay.
That would be above the ordinary high water line. Once we get something cut in there and get a lot of brush out, we can figure out what else we can do.
Oh, okay. Also, and I think this is in Mr. Turman's district, but we had a request that came in that wants us concurrence on proposed road bridge closure on Rush Fork Road.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever recall one coming in like this before where they wanted our concurrence. Usually we get notified that it's going to happen. So my first question is this money coming out of bridge maintenance or repair fund, or is this coming out of our secondary road, and that's why we have to concur?
No, it's definitely out of a maintenance fund. It's not your secondary road construction. I think sometimes they'll send one or the other kind of, the concurrence is more of a acknowledgement that we understand it's going to be closed, that the work is needed to be done, but it gives you an opportunity to add any comment you might have. And our bridge office is usually pretty good about telling us when it's going to happen, and we'll notify all the, whether it be a school or emergency services or the public, which, there'll be a sign up usually weeks in advance. But that's all that is. It's not really a funding thing. The funding comes out of our bridge maintenance program. We've got one closed yesterday in Pulaski, same kind of thing.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we weren't concurring to use secondary maintenance money on a bridge when I knew we had bridge funds to do
Yeah.
that, so.
Yeah, no, that's none of your secondary funds.
Okay. That's all.
Linda?
Yeah, thank you. The residents of Roger Road were so excited, and they wanted me to make sure I thanked you in person or via teleconferencing. They were very appreciative of the new work done. And you know that big old tree we'd been talking about on Sunny Ridge? Well, I got taken care of yesterday. And it didn't fall on the road, fell over a fence, so, I mean, that tree's done and gone. And the only other road I saw that I wanted to make mention of, and this is in Jerry's district, I've just been out, Woods Gap, down towards, I know you've got some patches where you've got it that say rough road, and I just, you know, those are great signs and all, but I was just wondering when rough road would become non-rough road, and just, you know, I guess it's between Roberson Mill and Storker's Knob, that whole area in there, you've got those signs where it says rough road, so just wondering about that, and you know, just an update on that guardrail on 615 just down past the county line. Any update on that?
Not right now. I think we've got the safety funding for it.
Yeah, I knew that. I just was wondering. And I will say, I did see a couple of crews. I went out and toured the area of that last night, not the Sunday night into Monday storm, but the Thursday night into Friday storm. And I encountered some crews, and they were practicing their safe distancing, and wondered if there was any way right now, maybe with a lot of things sort of on the downside, sorta, that we might be able to get a bucket truck over here. There are some really large overhanging branches on like Christiansburg Pike and some other roads that a bucket truck, I mean, these guys were trying to climb up a bank, and with a, you know, handheld chainsaw, a telescopic chainsaw, it just seemed like if we had a bucket truck at our disposal, it would have made those jobs so much easier. And there are a lot of snags that have been dropped but are still hung up in trees, and a bucket truck would make that job so much easier. So I told the guys I would talk to you about getting one over here if you could.
Okay.
I know they're in the VDOT system, I've seen them before, but I was just wondering if you might be able to get one over here.
Okay, yeah, that was, we don't have a lot of them. I don't have one in my residency.
I know you don't.
Yeah, they're usually contracted out, but that may be something, you know, something we'll be able to get on their contract list.
Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of those snags hanging, and it doesn't appear that these winds are dying down, and with the Gulf of Mexico 10 degrees above normal in April, I fear that our hurricane season and a lot of winds thereof are going to continue through most of this year. So, yeah, that might be a good idea to requisition.
All right, yeah, it's a good suggestion.
That's it.
All right.
Mr. Coleman?
Hey David, this is Justin here. Thanks for giving me the update on those couple projects we were kind of mulling around. I appreciate it. Thank you for keeping that on your radar. I don't really have anything this week. I know you guys are covered up trying to get everything back in shape, and appreciate the crews that are working during this time and everything you guys are doing. So I'll reach back out to you in a week or so and let you know of any maintenance needs that we may have. I just had a couple of questions. I'd been asked about Questenberry Road, and thanks for mentioning it earlier. Do you guys have kind of maybe an anticipated start date on that?
That's what we're going to discuss this afternoon. We're going to try to figure that out, yeah.
Okay. All right, how about...
I'll let you know, as soon as we make a decision about, you know, when we think it's going to happen, I'll let you know.
Okay, great, thank you. The only other one I had was Firehouse Road. Is that kind of, Joe and I guess it's more in his district than mine, we kind of share it. Is that one still this year or next year, or where do we stand?
It'll probably be next year, just based on the fact that there's only but so many.
Right, yeah.
And we're gonna get Mill Run probably in the Quisenberry. And actually, I think Ponderosa is up there ahead of Firehouse as well.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, sounds good. I appreciate it.
But I mean, we definitely, we've already started some of the design and right-of-way work on Firehouse. It just, the most expensive part is obviously the construction part.
Sure.
And so we'll probably be doing it the way it is on the 6-year plan, that'll be after those others.
Right, yeah, and that's fine. I was just curious as all, so
Yeah,
thank
still
you.
there. Yep.
All right, stay safe, thanks.
Good, thanks.
Good question. Have you already approached the property owners there on Firehouse on that expansion to get their permission?
Quite a number of them, yes. I don't know if we're completely done with all the property owners.
They surveyed it all last summer.
Okay.
Speaking of which, while we're on that topic, I'll send if it's all right with the board and Terry, I will send a draft resolution to the board for consideration and approval. I can do it for the next meeting if you'd like. We didn't have any speakers at the public hearing. You've got a large number of roads on the 6-year plan, so nothing could be added unless something is taken off. And I'll send a resolution for your consideration and approval for your next meeting, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right.
yeah, that'd be the 20th.
Mr. Joe, just had a couple of things. First off, I really appreciate all the hard work that your guys have done. When I came in this morning, they was already on the roads with graders and stuff, so we really appreciate them. And had a lady, I think this has been brought up in the past on Fairview Church Road. It's the sharp curve about where the pavement ends. It hooks back to the left, sort of a hairpin curve there going up the Marset Winery.
Mm-hmm.
We still got big tractor trailers that's trying to use that road, and they're getting hung up in that curve, and they have to get wreckers to get them back out. They was wondering if you could put up some signage that says that that's not a good road to follow with your GPS. I told them, I said, well, they got one on 221 too, but they still go down Indian Valley.
It's true, that's true.
And I was wondering, and like I say, I never try to tell y'all how you do your job, but I was wondering if maybe if you have one of them battery-powered caution lights that flashes on top of them to sort of catch their attention. Because I try to look at the one on 221, and I usually run by it because I don't see it. But I just wondering if that was something y'all could think about doing.
On that sign for Indian Valley?
Right, yeah. And if you put one on Fairview Church Road, just flash it, just catch people's attention that it's not a good road, not to follow their GPS on it.
Yeah. I'll bring that up. I know they try to limit how many of the flashing stuff is around, but I can ask them about that.
Okay. And of course, I guess y'all well aware, all your roads along Burke's Fork got hit pretty hard. So,
Yeah.
And I appreciate all the gravel that y'all have put in my district this week, but I know part of it ended up going down the side ditch, but it really made a difference, But like I say, I appreciate y'all's hard work, and that's the only thing I've got really is just appreciate all your greater work that you're doing. So
All right, thanks.
it's really making a difference on some of the roads. So that's all I reckon that the board has, and the rest of the staff has got.
I have nothing today.
Thanks, David, for all your hard work, and thank you for the crews too.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank
Sorry
you.
It's a little bit awkward, but I think it worked out okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, sir.
All right, bye.
bye.
Just the fun button.
Smooth Jet. Smooth Jet is for your Tuesday morning, right here, WBOS.
Okay, next on our agenda is a closed session with Mr. Durbin, our county attorney. So we'll be going into closed session, our 2.2-3711A8, A3, and A5. I'll take a motion to go into closed session, and then I'll let Mr. Durbin explain.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we'll be back in open session. I apologize for being so late, but we had a lot to discuss. Next on our agenda is Dr. John Wheeler from Superintendent of Ford County Public Schools.
Hello, giving you an update on the Collaboration Career Development Center. Everything that I'm going to show you is on our website, and where we are, the timeline, we're still on track with everything. I think the biggest news is the last estimate to the value engineer came in that we're right on budget, and that includes all the furnishings and machinery that the teachers went through with the designers and Thompson Litton engineers, and you can see when they did that on our website. So all of that came in, and at this point, we're in good shape. We're in good shape with that and the other numbers on it. The next big one will be at the end of May, as far as the value engineering. At that point, the construction documents will be over 95% complete, and they'll go in for another estimate, and we'll see from there. But right now there's two different drawings we have up there. I'm going to let you look at this one first. Mr. Coleman was involved when we were looking at this to get the best and safest campuses we could with the traffic pattern, and we were looking at a whole other road here. We had to have this one, and how we would designate traffic. Put a lot, Thompson Litton engineers looked at this. They were working with the traffic at that intersection. So they found out that there's no need for this road. They will put a third lane here, which will help with traffic. We'll be able to get a lot of the traffic from Floyd E this way behind. And as you can see, the site layout, they're able to put a very large parking lot here across the road. We'll have a walkway, and we'll determine, right now it could be for students, but we'll have a walkway for whoever parks there. This is the existing building. This is the existing CTE building, and you can see the new sections. And all this is based on all the work the engineers have been doing. The best, and fortunately, the best place to put it was the most economical place to put it to. And also, when you get in the building, the layout of the building, one of the next phases we'll do is probably involve, we will involve Sheriff Craig and probably Mr. Coleman when we start looking at the security cameras. Citizens will continue with our same system, which is state of the art and one of the best. But once we look through that, we'll go there and see where we need to place them within the areas. Now, one thing I will tell you this, and I've been watching this very closely, we're in really good shape with those 2- and 3-year-olds. That's the biggest first phase. And fortunately, with the state, and I'm on multiple committees, the idea is for us to graduate people and have them prepared for a successful life. And that means the job market. And the job market has changed drastically. Probably my biggest anxiety I have, and this is going to help it quite a bit. And the state sees this too. There's a House bill where you have to offer computer science, because computer science is involved in most careers, especially entry level, from what they're saying. My biggest anxiety is we're graduating kids that the current job market, they're not as prepared for as they could be. And we're going to alleviate that pretty quickly. And before this is built too, so we'll have some opportunities. But the beauty of it all is taking care of those young and getting them where when they walk across that stage, they're going to have what they need. The nice thing about this is it's got everything we need and it's expandable. We even have a computer science lab up there, which we didn't before. We have all our areas. The next stage of this will be some virtual drawings. So you'll actually be able to see what it would look like inside. But from the square footage, we were able, through the processes with the teachers and looking at it and going on the estimates, we're able to get everything we need. I didn't want to come back and say, even though, you know, we're not spending 50 million, come back and say, this is good, but we're going to have to find something for this particular area some other time. We don't have to. We have spaces in there now that are going to allow us to expand, and that necessarily does not mean additional staff members. It just means that we continually shift to give our kids what they need. The beauty of it is the state's doing the same thing with graduation requirements. And that's going to take a few years, but we're in a good place there. That was probably the most important thing for me of this building. The square footage was good, and I based that on what the teachers saw. Some of them even said, do we need that much space? Or, you know, but they do. Once they got their equipment, they're using some of their existing equipment, and then on top of what else they need. For example, the welding lab has 20 spots. We have far fewer, so we'll be purchasing within our budget what we need to outfit every one of these classroom spaces. And that includes some of our existing equipment that the teachers feel really good about using. So that helped the budget tremendously. But like I told them, don't use it because it's a dollar amount. Do what's best for kids. And right now, everything's working out on both ends. The finance side and the need for the kids. I could I ask? Yeah, you can. Probably a good time just to ask questions if you have any here, and I could go through.
Well, I've got two.
Yeah.
That roadway there, is it two-way or single? You want to go?
Two-way.
Two-way, okay.
Two-way? And the
Now-
third lane was coming up from where?
They put a third lane in here. One of the things that I think the Sheriff's Department really liked, that we'll be able to continue flow straight up here. Won't be any backage.
And also, is that entrance area gonna be big enough to down here? No, right there, right there. Is that gonna be big enough to utilize as a cul-de-sac or a turnaround?
Well, we have to see at what point that we go to VDOE and say, here's the roads that we either need to designate as school use. I think there's options, listening to the Thompson and Litton engineers. I think when we get to that point, there are, from what they told me, there are options from that area as far as, do you want to abandon, or do you want to use one of the labeled road usage that VDOE already has.
Okay.
I think it's been done. Listen to Mr. Baronato both ways, and we'll just look and see what's best.
Yeah, whichever works out.
Whichever works.
We just need to know, I think we need to know before we start abandoning.
Absolutely.
I
I don't think that's, they have that on their plate and they understand.
And we may have to check with Steve and see if there's a time period, whether we need to re-advertise or not too.
And that's on Thompson's and Litton's list. Once we get through there, VDOE has already been involved in this. They've been down there.
The other one up here, the connector, is that a ramp? You got
No.
steps and a ramp?
Those are steps and an elevator.
Oh, an elevator, okay. Because I was gonna say,
ADA.
I couldn't see how in that short a distance you'd have a proper ramp.
It's a large area and there's an elevator there.
So you do have an elevator
You
there.
do have an
Okay.
elevator because of the elevation. That's the biggest elevation there
Right.
that you're coming down to. And like I said, the 8th grade area, you're basically getting 3 schools out of this. You're gonna get redefined with the teachers' input, high school. You're getting a whole 8th grade experience that's going to be designed for what they've experienced in pre-K through 7, what their needs are at that point, before they go on basically to high school for 9 through 12. And then obviously we have the Career and Collaboration Center.
Well, and that's gonna open up several classrooms on the lower level
Oh.
of the high school.
Then they can start, that's where they can
Yeah.
start reorganizing, see what we want to do. It's going to, and it'll open up several there. Hopefully we'll have some free, but we have so many teachers on carts now. But it does give you enough opening that you can reorganize to see how you want the flow to be and everything else. Now, here's some things that you don't see. These are, when they do the renditions, computerized renditions, you're going to see huge glass garage doors. There are, on this one right here, and I probably need to move it up. Here's the 2 business spaces right here. You have a large door here that opens up into that area. This is the existing auto shop. You have a large glass door there that you could drive let's say we wanted to put a semi truck from Volvo in, and we put it in this area for the different areas to work on. We could drive it in, park it there, and different classes, which is what everything's going to. You're going to work on projects. You're going to work collaboratively with other classes. So the flexibility is there. I was most impressed with that. And they involve, Thompson-Lytton involved a lot of people themselves, but that have designed the academies at Loudon, that have designed a lot of the junior college career buildings, so they know what's current and they know what's needed. And we were able to do it within the square footage and the framework. That's the yard, the secure yard for both building trades over here and welding and anything else we need of auto. But
What's them white semicircles right there?
those are steps down. So that's a large area. Now, everything can be sealed off. When we talk about the security cameras, we'll look at that, but one of the big things is you can lock it down pretty good. There's areas to secure. We're going to go through that more with the sheriff's office too. There's right here is the existing entrance to the building.
Right.
The CTE. So they build a foyer there. It's a secure entrance. When anybody comes in, they can't get to anywhere else. And we'll have an office window view in this right here.
And do you have another elevator at this location, or?
No, the elevation didn't decrease for the need for another elevator. That was the biggest increase. All of these are either ramps or.
Oh, they will be ramps?
Yeah,
Okay.
all ADA, and
Okay.
that one needed an elevator because the ramp would have been too steep.
Yeah. You'd have to move the building way down the hill.
Yep. And
Even
they've
if you
done,
did the circle, you'd have to.
they have done, and it worked out. I mean, obviously, if the site was a little less conducive to what the best valued engineering would be, we'd be in it a lot more. And they laid it out and continued to work with that. One reason it's coming out this way instead of back this way.
Do you already have 3-phase power at this site? Or do you see a need for?
They have, right now, their electricians and Timmy and Robert Ratcliffe, our technology, are working together. They're back and forth. They have everything that they
But
they need
it
in there.
doesn't have 3-phase right now, I don't think.
I don't think so, but it didn't sound like any of those were a huge cost item. And you can see the culinary, the whole nursing with IT. We have the simulation areas. We'll be able to open this space up right here. If we have a large meal with people from culinary, we can open those up. We'll be able to host those right next to it, the way this worked out. You know, there's cybersecurity and business here. Here's a computer science lab. Here's our CAD and CNC lab, which right now it's tucked away in the corner of a welding. We have a nice CNC machine, and now it'll have its own space. We'll have our own robotic space too. So we'll have everything in storage. They felt really good, the designers and the teachers, as they went through this. They started to see, okay, you know, this is good. This is much better for us, and they're the ones that drove this. And Thompson Litton and the designers came multiple times, as you can see on the website when they did come. But I would tell you, if I felt like, okay, we're spending this money not getting what we want. I don't know, you know, hopefully with all things going well and we get through this, when this thing opens, there'll be a better facility in the state, at least for that time, until another one's built. There won't be one flexible like this.
And we'll be better able to prepare our
I bet you some 11th, at least the last half of 11th and a lot of 12th grade years, whether they're in CTE or not, will be working down here either on partnerships, working with projects that are part of the graduation requirements in years to come, and now we have a space for them. And the biggest thing is we've expanded our welding, our building trades. The more we can do with the technology sector, the more we can look at partnering with New River and getting some evening classes for adults too. Now we'll have the facility, and New River's excited, RU is excited about this. You know, we're working with departments of Virginia Tech as well, that they're aware of it. And anything we can do to get a skill into an adult that makes them marketable too. So far, so good. Have any more questions until the next phase? Like I said, the next thing we'll do is we'll get with the Sheriff's Department and start looking at where the security cameras and the security systems will be, so we'll make sure that's part of what the cost is, so it's not any additional. It's just part of the process of building it.
Now, will there be an administrative office in this section? Or?
There are. All of those are right here. We have for our career coach, in fact, we have extra offices. We have for a career and technical director, we'll have for an administrator, and then we have an extra office over there as well. So we'll have it for
now, with the security cameras, I take there'll be monitors in one of these offices here.
Yeah.
Will they also be monitors in the main office?
Yes. Okay. Access to Way Citizens has laid that. It's pretty spectacular. I'm glad they got into that business.
Yeah.
They do an incredible job.
And will there be panic buttons if necessary, or?
That's one of those that what is the most safest for that. There are areas, and that's when we look at the cameras and all that, you know,
We'll
if it's,
figure that
yeah,
out then.
they just figure that out, what's the best.
And I guess in the renovated side, you'll be looking at security and everything along
Same
with.
thing.
Yeah.
Same thing, it'll be, you know, we have some already from when they outfitted the whole building, but we'll
So
look
some
at
of it needs expansion and upgrading.
yeah. We'll look at those areas. And like I said, I'm more impressed with we're good for a long time with this. And the flexibility of this to be able to say, Volvo wants to do a project, or Citizen wants to do a project, or H&V wants to do a large project. We want to get a team of your best kids on this, and we have equipment for you to use. We can drive it right into the collaborative area. So.
And the flow of it. I like a common area you were talking about with the new vehicle. You're gonna have a lot of different things. You've got computerized, you know, them, besides the mechanics and everything else, so they could.
These are large areas. There's, you know, when we get the renditions of the interior, you'll have a better idea and you'll be able to follow it through virtually when you look at that map and look at that. I haven't seen the completed ones yet. That'll be the next phase. We'll get those out. And one of the things I told them is, I don't have, you know, just make it look like Floyd County. And they're doing it within the budget and want to make it beautiful and match the existing school. They're working to do that, the nice features of the existing.
I really like that they're able to work in that additional parking lot.
Yeah, this is,
That, I've had several citizens, and I'm telling you, maybe one or two school employees,
Yeah.
who's really concerned about when all this went in, you know, what we were gonna do with parking, and it looks like you more than addressed that.
it is, we counted, and even we'll look at redesigning, and honestly, some of the parking's gonna come from not having a coal burner anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Because now, we don't, you know, we'll be doing things with the parking areas now that have to be left totally vacant. You know, so we'll be maximizing all those and even looking on this side of the road, so we're gonna clearly mark every extra spot we can, and hopefully get more people up this way for the ball games,
Right.
instead of parking down here on the side of the hill and
Tearing stuff
and coming
up.
out after it rained and.
Yeah. You got the two lines.
But that's where we are with it, and in a good spot. Any more questions about?
Looks good.
No, I think you explained it and answered the questions, or at least the ones I had.
Have you gotten far enough in your planning that you'd be able to add any different classes or opportunities?
The first one is we're gonna have to get computer science. And it's a very difficult certification to get, but Ms. Cromer secured that grant, and we've got a couple other things that we've been awarded from some pretty nice companies in the United States along these lines that we're gonna be able to hopefully continue to add that and see what we need.
Great.
Some good things, some good solid things, and if everything stays on budget or below, it makes it even a nicer thing.
Sweeter.
Yeah, I don't see an ounce of wasted space. I mean, it's not, you know, sometimes in design, you'll get up with a little, all right, we're gonna put this wall across here and that space is gone. It looks, from what I can tell from this, and then we'll tell more as you get the other drawings, it looks like every bit of space you could utilize is being utilized, so.
Well, and that's what I was most impressed about. I mean, I've looked at a lot of the different facilities, but they were looking for hallways for safety. I mean, even this space, our collaborative areas just weren't, okay, when are we gonna use this? And the doors open up, and we'll be able to use them right away for multiple things. I was the same way, Mr. Booth. I was impressed with how they maximize space. And this involves all the utility, where the utility rooms are, and the biggest part now in buildings is the technology infrastructure. Those rooms have to be cooled. Some of them take up a lot of space, but there we're able to fit them all in, and Mr. Ratcliffe, our technology director, went through, and Citizens knows where they are. They work with us too, because they provide it. So they've done a really good job of designing this. And right here, there is you can see this right here, and one day, very soon, that is a nice wall that hides our maintenance areas, but that's where you're going to have Floyd County High School.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be a beautiful whatever decide, and yeah, nice letters, and that way it's strategically placed and keeps the beauty of the building where it should be.
Big, beautiful
That's not a border wall, don't get excited. I'm sorry, I
I
had
just
just.
that picked up on what he said, beautiful wall.
Yeah.
Big.
Yes. Oh.
But that's, we're in a good place right now. Hopefully it'll continue.
It's amazing where that school's come from.
Yeah.
Looks a lot different than that was. It was hard looking in stone tablets around.
Yeah, we don't have to worry, they don't have to worry about dinosaurs running on top of them now either.
Dr. Wheeler, if you have time, you might give them an update on where we are on the boilers and the AC.
They're up there now, looking at where they're placing the, and I can show you down here, where they're placing the tank, the propane tank here. So they have ran the lines back here. So the next school they're doing the demolition on for the boilers are Floyd County High School. And then we'll have Check, and then we have Willis for that. Now the AC, they have a small team of the electricians that are going to each school and doing all the wiring for the AC. So they'll have that, and I work with Thompson Litton. I talk to Dr. Bissell, the director of the Health Authority for New River Valley, weekly, and Thompson Litton checks with these companies and who they're sending in. And we know where they are, so we can go back and clean, but they're in the process of doing that too. And as soon as equipment comes in, which like every other company in this world probably, they're delayed because their workforce has been reduced. But that's okay, because once that equipment comes in, they'll be ready. So that's where we are with those, and we do have enough to replace that water tank at Willis. That's the only, Indian Valley was part of it.
Right.
We put that aside. We have it in the capital improvement, so Willis, that takes care of the water issue at every place now. So that makes it very nice. And they'll be doing that when they replace the boiler at Willis. But that's where we are. They're full steam ahead. Most of the work is outside, and they're abiding by all the appropriate procedures for safety.
So if everything comes in like it should, that entire project should be finished by, will it be finished by the start of school, or?
I don't know, we haven't sat in an update meeting with a timeline from Norwell Corporation yet. But they're on their way, and there is a delay with the AC equipment. But when they do come in, the way it's going to go in, you can do a room or two at a time. It's not a complete renovation or
like the whole school has to be empty.
no, they can do one room. Once they get this wired, which is good, taking advantage of that, they'll get it wired and they have time to do it. So they're in there. So we're at a good pace with that too.
And what we did last week, we did the purchase orders. We're going to direct purchase the AC units, and we took it out of the Norwell contract. So that will save us a considerable amount of money, just with sales tax.
Right.
Right. So we did those last week.
Everything else is going as well as we can. As we work like you all work with all the federal and state waivers, feeding children and making sure we continue education, and so we're moving forward. But the most important part is just getting meals to these kids.
I think it's great that you're
Yep.
still doing that, and
I did tickled to them little ones. lined up beside the road.
Yeah.
You know about
Oh,
what
yeah.
time that
They
bus is
love,
coming.
they love the bus, and
Yeah.
we wanted to keep it 5 days, keep continuity, but we're able to do it within the cafeteria. And we do need to get people, minimize the amount that we're out, because you don't know what the next call is, but we're able to do it with that. We have plenty of storage. We bought a lot of nice 60-quart rolling coolers. So when all this is done, make sure the county doesn't go out to buy any new rolling coolers, okay?
So are you now on a
We have
3-day
that
a week?
big picnic.
Next week,
Next week
first we had
starts-
spring break Friday, Monday.
Right.
We honored that week.
Right.
So we're feeding every day this week. Last
Okay.
week we gave extra meals.
Right, I read, right.
And then next week it's Monday, 2 sets of meals, Wednesday 1 set, Thursday 2
2
sets.
sets, right.
Monday's the most
Still covers
important.
the
Right.
whole week.
It covers the
Whole week.
Yep, yep, and we can do it, we have the storage.
Yep.
Mr. Cox got a large refrigerator storage unit that has been obsolete. We scrubbed it out and he got it running.
Good.
So we have plenty of refrigerator space, and, you know, and one of the things, Ms. Ryan and I were talking, there's gonna be some good coming out of this, and one of the things I'm focusing on as we do this, and we're going to do this, you know, because it is emergency feeding. I wanna make sure all our cafeterias are outfitted with almost the same thing for storage. Because we wanna be able to be an emergency serving station for Floyd
Right.
County.
Right.
And so we're gonna look at all those. The other thing with that is, and we've talked about this before, and it's a priority, is to get generators where we don't have generators in
Right.
their in their areas that are set for emergency shelters.
Right.
So we're looking at that, and hopefully we'll build that up, and we'll be able to say, hey, tell us in 5 minutes, you know, we'll be able to do it.
But you know, it's something I've been thinking about, that this is a tragic situation we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
But if there's ever a silver lining on anything, when we come out of this thing, we're gonna be prepared, and we're gonna know what we need to tweak and have everything in case we get hit again.
Yeah,
You know, it's a learning experience, and actually it's taught me a lot, you know, and
Well, a lot of what we're going to do will be in place, and we'll have stuff in place for future.
that's what I'm
roads.
saying, yeah, because, you know, we know where our low spots are, and we know what our high spots are, and we can sort of balance them out, you know.
absolutely.
Everybody was caught flat-footed in this one, that's it.
Unfortunately.
Questions?
And I'm just gonna add, you seeing reimbursements from state and federal yet, or nothing yet for y'all?
No, it'll probably be after the fact. We're working on all those. We're keeping all the bills, most of them emergency feeding, payroll, the stipulations that first is the stimulus money, the federal stimulus money that'll come. For school systems, it'll be divided up based on their Title I formula. So that's a detailed formula, so we'll have an idea, and I'm sure we'll be able to absorb it all with the additional costs, whether it's food, whether it's for getting the food out to the kids. But we haven't seen anything from that. I mean, they keep us updated. I have not a webinar, but I have the live update from the state superintendent on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I do a remote with all the principals directly after that to give them updates. And they keep us up to date. I guess the next big thing, same thing everybody's waiting for, is it'll be probably till the end of April before we'll get the Department of Education's budget template based on the state's template. They're not going to wait for anything until this budget's approved. You know, normally they send you something out and say this is pretty good, but they're not going to send anything out until Richmond approves this next go round.
Back to feeding. during the summer, normally you would have feeding. So, and, you know, listening and understanding how our food supply chains are in two different realms. One is a commercial realm and the other is an institutional realm. Business such as schools, hospitals, colleges and such. Will we be looking at feeding through the summer?
We'll look at during our normal summer feeding, we're gonna have to see from the standpoint of the waivers.
Right.
These waivers go to the end of school.
Right.
Some of the waivers go to while there is a state of emergency.
Right.
And we'll have to see, but we'll continue doing all we can. The emergency feeding is you know, is basically it from the waiver standpoint.
Right.
And a lot of it is when does the national emergency come off? A lot of the waivers you're getting say during the national emergency or during the state emergency.
Emergencies, yeah.
So we'll have to see, at the very least, we'll do what we always have done.
Right. So you're looking ahead to the summer for.
Looking ahead to the
Right.
summer, and, you know, we're looking ahead to a lot of things,
Right.
because reopening is going to be massive, but as
Yeah.
far as our last day of school is May 29th.
Okay.
So we have to put waivers in for the days, which we're in pretty good shape, because we have good days at school.
Right.
We haven't missed tremendous amount, so, you know,
Right.
we're working that now. But, you know, we still have a last day of school, and then we'll just go from there and see where we are near the end of May.
Have you started looking into how you might handle the summer school for those students that?
Most of those are on waivers, and a lot of those, we're looking at not only the seniors, there's a lot of waivers there, and we know which ones, and the high school has done a great job reaching out to each one, and we're working with them. We're also looking at the current juniors and what they need and what implications. With anything with this, like Mr. Turman said, you gotta come out of it with some, but there's gonna be some unintended consequences. There's definitely gonna be at every level. And the State Department of Education is doing a good job of saying, okay, we need to look at what we're going to do 2 years from now, and what that means, especially with accountability, which is most of the committees I'm on. You know, we need to change the accountability from the standpoint of we need to give these kids and give them free time, free up their time in the day to give them things that are going to make them profitable when they leave, that are going to put them in the job market and are going to give them the experiences they need to develop the mind that they need. So we're in the State
Also,
Department.
you've got some students that will have to go to summer school to pass a certain course that, you know, all that has to be
All
worked out.
that has to be worked out. Most of those, you're looking at the current 10th and 11th graders, but we're working with those. The seniors are all in good standing. You know, we're getting all those.
I was trying not to get into details, but just.
I think we're in good work with those. The seniors are. So, I don't think I'll get an acting contract out of this one.
I don't think any of us would.
We mentioned in her credits at the end.
Guest appearance.
We won't be the magnificent seven, we might be the dirty dozen. Or that might be a dozen, sorry. I guess the only other question I had is anything we can be doing to help you?
I don't think so. I think we're up on all the waivers. I think that we're doing like you all are doing, looking at the current budget and see where we are. We're keeping track of everything we need to keep track of. From that standpoint, we know that you know, what these waivers involve, and our priority was getting food to the kids, and then, so we're in good shape with that. Nobody's knocking on our door to pay a bill, so as soon as they do that, I'll come over and talk to Ms. Morse.
And they're not knocking on the delivery check either.
No. I think we're in good shape. I think everything that's been put in place by the federal government and state government and Department of Education have kept things running to search children. I do have to say that. Very can reach me anytime. If you do have a question, just call me. Like I said, everything we have that I showed today is up there, and we'll keep moving on and making progress and supporting each other.
For those watching, you want to give the web address?
Web address is floyd.k12.va.us. And it's facilities update.
It was good. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you all. You're welcome. See you.
Thank you.
See ya.
We've got 10 minutes in it.
There you go.
Want to take your lunch break?
Yeah, I couldn't get safe. Y'all got anything
Yep.
to bring up? We'll take our lunch break and be back at 1:30 with Mr. David Rose from Davenport.
Yep.
Yeah, but we better not be taking on this one. We'll keep it right on schedule this time. Thank you.
He usually gets here early if you want.
Welcome back, and we'll have Mr. Mark Bolt, our building official here.
All right, y'all already know about this, I guess, about maybe doing the structure up at the ball field. I talked with Jacob and looked at what he's got down here in the lower floor, and what he would like is a structure with the second floor with 2 offices up there to oversee the ball field. But getting some prices, I just priced out, that structure is 32 by 80. So I called out to price builders to do a metal structure, just the shell, the slab. And they come back with a price of a little over 108,000. And that's a 32 by 100, no second floor. Because I got a feeling the second floor is going to add a little extra to it.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
And then, instead of doing the second floor, we could probably put some cameras out there on light posts that he can review and see if anybody's out there doing something they ain't supposed to be doing and so forth. And keep an eye on the ball games and whatever he does up there. That's out of my league. And I talked to Benny Harris this morning. I'm sorry I didn't inform you about this. And he said doing a wood structure, 2x4 framing, siding, roof, so forth, around 110 to 120,000. Well,
Finished inside?
I'm sorry?
Finished inside or
No,
just the
no,
structure?
Just the structure. That's no offices, no license, so forth.
Huh.
So, saying that wood structure, you have more capability of finishing the walls off inside. A metal structure, you still have to have the inside framing.
Yeah.
But if you go with metal structure, the only thing you really have to finish off would be your office spaces and restroom. Everything else could be left alone, kind of like y'all been in the transfer station. So metal building got the white insulation. And he could build shelves and put a lot of his stuff in here over there with that. So basically, if you want the inside finished 100%, you'd probably still be better off go with wood framing. Now, if you don't, as far as where the athletic stuff is put, if you want to, you could always attach sheeting, 1/2-inch plywood or something to the purlins and the bottom plate and get by with that if you want to. So it's either or. I think it's going to be about the same pennies for pennies. It's going to be fully insulated. So when I got the prices on, it's actually the shell. What will have to be looked at for different prices would be the office spaces. Look at 2 office spaces, a restroom, a foyer for a secretary, and then finishing the outside walls with that to keep insulation and so forth in. So I'm guessing you're probably looking at somewhere between $140,000, $160,000 for the structure.
Ouch.
I'm sorry, but things are expensive.
So that's a little less than our estimate that we had in the budget. We had 200 in the budget, which is on page 24.
The space when I designed is just a little bit bigger than what's there now for growth. And Mr. Jacob would like to have the extra space, so when he has teams in there and coaches, he has a place for meetings.
Right.
Give her about like 6 tables, something like that. Then, you know, on the end, we're allowing about, I can't remember, I think 14 feet just for a garage area. But is, what's that thing he's got?
Like a
Gator.
Yeah,
Gator-like thing.
yeah, that and the pickup park like a garage, actually a garage within one of our firewall separation, instead of building a separate building. Go ahead and use what walls you got there. But we'll go the direction you wanna go. We can go a separate building, you don't choose for that, or.
Where was it on put it?
We looked at up there where there's a shipping container.
Yeah,
Sitting there.
that makes sense.
There on that little flat.
Yep, that little knoll right there.
Yeah, off to the,
The
off to
green
the,
box says.
off to on that right side, that looks like virgin ground. We go off to the left side, where the bank starts
Going
falling.
in, yeah. it's
Yeah.
field
That's got
lots.
some field there.
I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that was compacted, so we'd have to, if you get off of that, outside of that cutoff part, then you're gonna have to look at what compaction testing.
Yeah, compacted tester, dig down to 2 virgin soil. That could be 2 foot, it could be 8, you know.
Pretty deep holler in there when we started, so.
So, any questions? Ms. Terry Ransom?
But you would go with the wood frame.
Depends on what you want to really do with it. I mean,
Well.
both of them's good structures.
Yeah, well, as far as the office in a metal building, you could use the metal stud works, and you could still,
Yeah, I would use wood, cause if you want to keep it local.
Yep.
Most of the people right here are familiar with wood frame instead of metal studs. I don't think there's really a big cost difference. There's not really a different
No.
cost
No.
difference.
I was just thinking more on the fire rating.
Yeah.
Save some on the insurance on the fire rating if you had metal versus wood. Might not be that much of a savings, you know, either.
Now, if you want a good saving, you want a sprinkler system.
Well,
They say you get payback on that in the insurance in 4 to 6 years.
That's expensive though.
we don't wanna talk about sprinkler systems, do we?
No. No,
For other reasons.
no.
Unless the county's gonna pay for 6-inch lines down there.
Say 160,000.
I think that would be the max. That's just an educated guess.
Still 40 less than what we budgeted.
Well, it depends on the kind of look you want too, if you'd rather have,
White pillars?
wood, wood building, or if you want
Be more
something
rustic.
metal.
What about Floyd County?
What are you looking at, if it's a wood structure, what are you looking at as far as the outside of it?
Well, I still think about going metal with it, either that or hardy plank.
Yeah, that's what you had in there, Hardy, right?
Yes, ma'am. Hardy plank will be more expensive than
Yeah,
that.
it will.
I mean, to get us, I mean, I ain't telling you all nothing we don't know, but to get the actual price, we'll have to put it out for bid, right?
Right.
And we always put that clause on it. Miss Terry does, that says, you know, we have the right to reject all bids.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Start
commit
over.
the budget. If you like when it's drawn up, or I'll be happy to redraw it with the 100-foot section and redraw the office space, which you look at that, see if you like the design. And I can go ahead and work on getting the required lights and, you know, all the tic tacs to go on, you know, kind of water fixtures and everything we want to put in there. And we want, I guess, Jacob would like to keep his double mop sink he's got over there now. That's about the only thing we can move. Well, his refrigerator and his cook stove. Little things like that save a little bit of money. But we get more detail, or you hire an architect, whatever you want to do.
That will eat that $2,000 up if we do that. Your rates is a whole lot cheaper than architects.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Good.
We just kinda wanted to see if we were going in the direction that you all wanted, you know, trying to get some costs.
With simple plans like that, it ain't like building an office building, you could probably do just as.
I believe I could do this as, it ain't gonna be, my drawing ain't as pretty as what they do on the computers, but we keep.
Paying for pretty wheels.
And that is the size that's probably gonna be what's needed.
You're gonna need at least.
That's pretty big, 2560.
Yes, ma'am, but he's maxed out what he's got now.
Yeah, he has.
And then,
How much is down there? Do you know?
I'm thinking it's 40 by 60, 30 by 60.
2,300 something, wasn't it?
Oh, really? So it's not that
No.
with much more,
He's only gaining
200.
roughly
Plus.
200 square feet, plus, you know, the garage is extra
Right.
footage, but the building's about the same size. It's
Huh.
a couple hundred square feet extra just for the,
Yeah.
Now, we had also talked about a separate building for keeping fuel and that kind of stuff in, is that,
well, we can do that in the garage.
Yeah.
that'd still be in the area in there?
Maybe that 1 hour separation. We're not talking about no 2,000 gallons.
No, we've done
Yeah,
that.
right.
Under six, as long as we're under 660 gallon, we're all right.
Yeah, we shouldn't have over that, I wouldn't think.
We can always move that storage container behind the building, you know, keep
Mhm.
fuel in there if we needed to.
Yeah.
And then there is that little building.
Mhm.
Is that falling apart or is that still in good shape?
We didn't look inside on
Little build.
There's that little building that keeps
Over
like
on the left.
little, near the softball field?
There along the restrooms where the kitchenette is on that end.
Is that other little building gone? Where the electrical turn-off is and stuff? That's still there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was speaking of the one across from the storage container.
Oh, yeah,
There's a
okay.
building there too. I don't
Yeah.
know what kind of shape it's in.
You talking about something like a monolithic slab or?
Yes, sir. Well, we'll kind of leave that to the contractor to do a monolithic, or we just do a block foundation.
Correct.
It's about pennies for pennies. It's quicker to do a monolithic for it.
Yeah.
You just gotta get all your ducks in a row with your piping and everything ahead of time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeehaw.
Would any part, if we're doing a stick frame structure, would any part of this be interesting to the building trades at the high school?
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Maybe the
Yeah,
finishing
no,
work
And I
inside and
hesitate
stuff?
saying that because when I was on the board before, I got accused you wanting to use child labor, but that wasn't my point.
Yeah.
My point was, I know that they go out and they do little projects, but I didn't know whether.
Maybe the finishing, the interior?
Well, I don't know.
That's what I was thinking about when I was talking about the Carolina carports, that we could get building trades at the high school to do the offices and, you know, subdivide it. And
Yeah, finish
it
it
off.
off.
They do get a contractor to do the main structure and then see if they could,
Do the finishing.
Well, I say it's probably a good possibility that
I don't know if it'll save anything.
the time frame is gonna
Yeah.
go way out there, cause I think he's gonna get some, like, anywhere between 2 and 3 hours a day,
Yeah,
time
about
bus
an hour and
over.
a half-
Yeah.
About an hour and a half per class, I think, is what it is, don't forget that, yeah. I was just thinking outside the box.
So it don't hurt to think outside, I mean, I think it's a great idea to give them experience, but
Yeah.
Maybe if we need any other outdoor buildings or anything, we could include them, we could do that.
the idea, cause you know, it took them a while just to do them, it's called dugouts,
Yeah.
baseball, okay.
Dugouts.
Yeah, it's, I remember that was.
Yeah, that took a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
When it's here,
yes.
it comes out here, it's not always makes sense, but it comes out, so.
I can, you know, I can get, work with Will Ridge and get prices on the metal and prices on hardy plank, figure the square footage up and kinda let you know what the difference there is. I kinda limited the windows, no windows on the back or the, you know, on the back side, cause it's all forced back there, and you can get a whole lot of daylight.
You know, and that gives you more wall space to do stuff too if you need to.
Yeah.
Also cut down people wanting to pilfer back there. Sounds good.
Okay.
Good luck after a while.
Thank you.
Brush up on your drafting now.
I'll buy me some more, I'll give you some collar pencils.
There you go.
We'll put that in your part of the budget over here.
Colored pencils.
Thank you.
Well, we didn't go with a minute over, Mr. Rose.
I was hoping for better, but it could have been worse.
Do you stand? I don't care.
Whatever you want.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, fancy those. Right.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Yoder's not here today?
No, it's, under the weather.
Well, it is beautiful outside, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it
If
turned
it's
out
weather,
pretty nice.
people won't mess it up.
All those, I mean, I came down on, it's always 81, and all the red buds.
Yeah.
As you get Christiansburg, Blacksburg towards here, it's just, it's that perfect time of year.
Yeah, it is.
Really nice.
Yes, it is.
Although I'm used to watching Virginia Tech spring game around that time. But that's not it.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I'll just wait for Cindy. So is it up on the wall as well, and just our presentation now? Oh, click to edit master title. That's- Okay, I think if you want it, I'm ready. It looked like it, but it wasn't. See that?
You have to do start
We
presentation.
had it before.
I'm fine, good.
It was there before as the,
Okay. If you go to, view. Actually, you mind if I? Go ahead. This is the start.
So,
And then usually you want to scroll using the mouse.
Cindy, if you want to scroll, I'll just tell you when.
Okay.
Okay. Did you want to say anything, Terry, before I start? Okay, well, thank you. I think you all know who I am again, and for the folks that perhaps are watching, it's David Rose, and I'm with Davenport and Company, and we are financial advisors to Floyd County. What I'd like to do today is to provide an update on where we stand on these high school projects. If we could, just ask you to turn to page 1. Okay. So a little bit of background. We've been working with the county for several years now, as the staff knows. Of course, I'm very much indebted to Cindy and Terry for all their leadership. We could not be here today and do what we're doing without all of their help. Behind the scenes, we've had a number of conversations about where things are, and I think I'm pleased to say that some of the recommendations and things that you've done in the past are putting us in a good position today, as difficult as this environment is and unusual as this environment is, and I'll get into that in a minute. So a little bit of background. During FY 2019, we did several dollars of new money for the first phase of the school needs. We also did a line of credit for about $3.5 million for economic development for the county's Commerce Center. You may recall we talked about keeping your cash, if you would. That is proving to be a very smart move.
I'd say.
So again, I appreciate y'all letting us make that recommendation and following that recommendation. Certainly we would rather be in a mode today where you say, you know, we don't have any need for those dollars, or we could pay off that debt or what have you. But again, we're in the right position. I've said it before, cash is king, and we like to be in that mode. So with all of that, you'll recall that the 2019 issues did not require this board to actually ask for or put into place any tax rate increases to take care of all that. What we did talk about, though, is going to phase 2, and we did a lot of planning, and I was fortunate to be here on a number of occasions, and we said that was going to be basically the equivalent of about 3 pennies, and that's still the case. Maybe a little less, but basically that's the approach. So if you go to page 2 there, where we are, is for that second phase, we successfully borrowed back in the November-December timeframe. It seems like a million years ago, but it was only about 5 or 6 months ago. We borrowed basically half of that money, $7.5 million. And then we talked about where to be and what to be doing for the next part of that. So in comes all of this unexpected COVID issue. The markets are highly volatile, but there's some good news, and that's part of why I'm here today. And part of why I'm here today is because we had talked about, if you look at that 4th bullet point, in getting to the spring, summer, where we are now, the next piece of that, if you would, that's $7 million remaining. And initially, we talked about doing that again in an interim capacity called literary loan anticipation notes. However, because the interest rates are actually very favorable, more favorable than we had estimated, one of the recommendations that we will make, we've talked to staff about, is to consider not only asking for the interim funding, but to see if we can't convert both the initial financing we did in November, December, and this amount directly to a permanent financing. And that's all because, again, the tax-exempt marketplace is very favorable and has rebounded very nicely in the last few weeks, since it really hit its, if you want to call it, stop about a month or 5 weeks ago. Now, the approach to all of that as well is there may be some refinancing opportunities. And what I mean by refinancing opportunities is not adding any new debt, simply trying to save money on what we have. Only purpose we would do that. So, with all of that said, we're here today, and I want to talk a little bit about a process, and also want to talk a little bit about cash flows and how we're thinking about the county away from this borrowing, and overall the way we think you're positioned going forward into the 21 fiscal year budget.
So, next page, key considerations. We once again, I'm the bearer of that tough news that not everything is for free. We continue to point that out, and that again, we will still need that 3 cents on the county's tax rate. We understand and realize what happened in the revalve. At the very least, we are hoping, it's easy for me to say, no one elected me, but it really is the very least, keeping it at that 60 cents, which provides the equivalent of that 3 pennies. So again, keeping that tax rate the same, ideally getting to the 63 cents, doing it all at once, putting the county into a particularly strong position is something that as the outside person, I would like to try to push for, recognizing that I'm not running for office in the next few weeks, months, or probably the next 50 years. Okay. But on a serious note, this county has been very well run. You put yourself in a very good position, and you saw that when it came time to get those bids in. You got a number of very strong bids, and that's all because your financial situation was solid. And I think it's still solid, and that's part of what I want to present today. Okay, last thing, refinancing opportunities. If it works, great. We've not counted it. So again, it's not been accounted for and won't be unless something actually tangible happens. All right, let's go to page 4. And let me talk a little bit about the county. And this really has come from our knowledge of the county and your staff's ability to really educate us and then back and forth the dialogue. So what we've seen, and in some ways, if you can call the timing fortuitous for something bad, because it's never good, but I think in some ways we're a little bit blessed here, both in Virginia and nationally, insofar as, again, never good, nothing about this is a blessing, but the timing is such that this is happening and the impact is being felt for the last quarter of the 2020 fiscal year. And we have some sense of what that might be, and we're going to talk about that. But what it does allow us and other colleagues throughout the other 94 counties in the state to do, as well as the 47 cities, let alone but towns, is to say, okay, how do we amend our budget before we actually finalize it for the 2021 year? How do we think about all of this going into the 2021 year? And so better than having this occur come July 1, where all of a sudden the budget's set and we have to rework it on the fly, we get some elements of being able to realize some of the impacts before we enter into the 2021 budget. So what we have here is a couple of key points. Your unassigned fund balance, that's that rainy day we talked about, is basically the equivalent of 1/3 of your annual general fund revenues. 7 million or so out of roughly 21 million. As I said, you really almost never can have enough. This is coming back to benefit you and to put you in a position. We then took a look at the various revenue sources that constitutes that roughly 21 million. And as you can see there, basically a solid half of that is real estate and personal property. About 4 million comes from the Commonwealth. About 1 million comes from the federal government. And the other 1.9 million is a combination of things such as, again, local taxes, like meals taxes, lodging taxes, sales taxes, those types of things. And with all of those, we worked with your staff to talk about, okay, how will those potentially end up at the end of 2020? What kind of dollars could we be losing unexpectedly just because of this COVID-19 pandemic? And so when we get all taken into consideration, what we realized here is that because we have a solid fund balance, those dollars available, even if we go into the end of 2020 and it costs us roughly $1 million through no fault of anybody's and all of that, we then really enter the 2021 fiscal year with roughly about $6 million in fund balance. So if we basically go to the next page. Okay. What we wanted to think about here is an approach. One that we like because it gives us this opportunity to see what's out there and to get a sense of the marketplace. So here we are today on the 14th, and we would be asking you as the board to allow us, as you've done in the past, to move forward with what we'll call a dual track approach. We've done this before. And that is, we would like to send out requests, but not binding requests, on our behalf to banks and to brokerages, and to tell them we want to look at interim financing, permanent financing, and refinancing. And for them to do what they've done in the past is to give us specifics if they're willing to do that. Based upon that, I wrote May 12th, but I also put a footnote in there that we may need a whole nother month just because of the timing. So I may not be back till, for example, later in May or sometime in June. All right, we may find that the banks ask for more time, and some have started to do that. But with your blessing, we would come back, whether it's 4 weeks from now, 6 or 8 weeks from now, and say, this is what we have found. This is what folks are willing to do. And at that point, you make the decision how you want to proceed, and if any refinancings work. So we've been there, done that, but the important thing here is this. I believe that while there's no knowledge of when this thing is going to end or what have you, we do think that when we look at the relative revenues that you have and the timing of the revenues, it's very possible that the entire 21 fiscal year is going to be upended and uncertain. And as a result, a bunch of those, we'll call it other local revenues, will very much be at risk. That said, even if we lost half of those other local revenues, which would be dramatic for the whole year, meaning starting July 1 through it, we have the unassigned fund balance to carry us. And we have the ability throughout that fiscal year to say, okay, every 3 months, let alone every month, where do we stand? How are we tracking? What do we have to do? What can we do? And I think your staff is strong enough, and we have enough handle on this, that you have that flexibility. Finally, if interest rates hold like they are now, it's possible that we will be able to get a structure of the new money, refunding, whatever, that could be also favorable to the cash flows of 2021, that we're not counting on now, and that you're not yet putting into your budget. So you want to be conservative. You want to not assume it. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions. And again, sorry Mr. Yoder's is under the weather and couldn't hear this as well. But I feel as if we have no downside to this. Again, you know us. If this does not work, if something does not happen, we're not compensated. You're not obligated to the banks. But I do think that moving forward and continuing the high school project, you've got half the money, finish the other half here. You have the wherewithal. Again, nothing's changed about the 3 pennies, and ultimately, you always have the ability through a fiscal year to make amendments, as lots of folks did back in 2009, 2010, when it came to the financial crisis that came quickly. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I appreciate it.
You might have questions.
Just wanted to point out that on page 3,
Yes, Mr. Booth.
your footnote at the bottom,
Yes, sir.
where you're estimating the penny on the real estate tax,
Mm-hmm.
it's being estimated by Wingate and now at $189,000,
Perfect.
which that's another $40,000 on 3 pennies that, along with other things, could. And with the if the refinancing works out plus that, we could be talking 2 pennies instead of 3.
Yes, sir, good. We certainly could.
It
That's
just
right.
depends on how that refining.
And you can see, I didn't put any numbers in the
No,
refinancing
no.
purposely, because we really have no sense of it right now. On top of that, again, it's just too difficult to know. So I'll tell you what we are seeing, and you may recall we talked about this in the past. If we don't like the results that we get, one of the things we talked about with you was the thought of maybe getting a public rating and doing a public sale.
Yeah.
So to give you a sense of that, if indeed you continue to do what you're supposed to do, which is you set the rate appropriately to really take care of your needs, you do that 3 pennies that is for this project again, and you don't tap into fund balance other than unexpectedly the emergency. The point is, we think that we will get a very good credit rating, and then we could look at the public markets. And what we mean by the public markets is what we do for like Roanoke, we're about to do for Roanoke in about 2 weeks from now, where we put out a prospectus, and we don't know what the rate is till the day we go into the marketplace, but it's a much larger market of buyers. And so that could be, while the costs up front are more expensive, the overall cost is typically lower. And it gives us, for example, an opportunity to maybe roll in some of the existing debt and do some things. So we could be here in a month from now, or 6 weeks, or 8 weeks, saying, we'd like to shift gears and think about that as well. But I'm hopeful, we'll see, that maybe some of the banks will say, you know what, that 14.5 million is not so large that we can't give aggressive rates. That's really what you fight when it comes to the banks, is the size of what you want. Maybe a little bit much for banks, meaning the concentration of risk in one county, the size that they're doing. So there's a bunch of factors. Like I said, nothing harm, nothing, you know, we're in a mode where we see what comes our way, and if we don't like it, we'll talk about others.
Will you do like you did before, collateral versus no collateral?
Okay. So that's a great point. So I think what we're gonna find this time, for the full school project, is we will have to have collateral on the full school project, probably. I know but that'll be on that school itself. That's the idea.
I understand that.
And that's really gonna be something that, again, it's very typical. It's what your neighbors have to do, but we'll ask for that, yes, of course. But again.
And I'm sorry.
Good.
No, and also on the refinancing, again, we've got Indian Valley Elementary tied up. That's still, I'm used to sitting on board when all the board had to do was say, we want to borrow this, and we got a yes, and we went on because they know we would pay our bills, and I'm still trying to get used to this new stuff. But it just kind of rubs me the wrong way with that collateral. If we could also look when you do the refinancing.
We will, and again, I want to make sure you all realize, and I said it before, you know, Mr. Yoder offered that tractor, that didn't work.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
He offered that, probably.
And I know that your interest rate's gonna be better with collateral and without, but it depends on how much difference.
Yes, exactly.
That's
You hit on it, Mr. Booth, that's right. In fact, remember, because that's why, when we said, hey, the difference is very small, and we'd rather do the non-collateral, that's what we chose. However, we'll just have to see
what they do,
what the marketplace says. So I want to make that point. But for example, your neighbors right north of you, Montgomery County, when they do the schools, they have to provide the collateral, and they're a very excellent credit rating. I mean, they are right below a AAA. They still are necessary because, again, without the collateral, they may not get, and they wouldn't have gotten any bids at all for the schools. So again, every community is unique, I get that. But I want to point out, with all my experience and all your neighbors, that's more typical than not. I feel like we kind of got lightning in a bottle. You know, we got very lucky, and they will still get lucky. But I don't want to promise it.
Oh, no, I
that
didn't expect you to.
You know, and let me finish one more point, too. So let's assume, for whatever reason, we get the interim funding, the second piece of interim funding, and let's say that, again, doesn't require collateral, possibly. Let's say it will, maybe not. We'll see, we'll ask. The takeout of that, if you may recall, the takeout ultimately is the literary loans of the state. They don't require collateral. They don't require collateral. That's the way the state works. So again, there's some
But their
possibilities.
interest rates are a little bit higher than what the markets are.
We don't know, that's what I'm saying, that's what
Or
we'll find
they
out.
were.
And they were, right. So we'll see.
They may come down.
Yeah, and that's all part of our analysis, because as you know, from my perspective as your advisor, I'm not biased one way or the other. Just doesn't matter to me,
Yeah.
in the sense that I don't get paid more or less or anything like that. It's not the way it works.
Yeah.
I think the last thing too is then there's potentially the Virginia Public School Authority, the other state program. And the way they're set up for every local government, it's all the same, is that you don't provide collateral, but you effectively give your full faith and credit, your GO, but it's not voter required. That's what makes VPSA a unique program. Been around 50 years, it's around a day, and we use that a lot too. So all of those factors will be looked at. The thing with VPSA, it's a part of a public market sale, which is to say you don't know the rate until they go to the market. Whereas with the banks, if we get something that whether we like it or not, we will know the rate. Talk to you about the cash flows of these things. So I feel like nothing to be lost by going forward. That's the way we should be doing it. I think maybe some of the citizens are nervous perhaps, and y'all might be nervous given the uncertainties of some of the revenue sources. But the other thing too is, you notice the one thing I didn't bring up here, which is supposedly the federal government's going to give states money, and the states are supposed to give some money to the local governments, meaning to y'all. I don't have a sense of what those dollars are. They haven't been delineated. We're not counting them.
Right.
Not going to count it. Not counting one penny of it.
Not till it's in the bank.
Not until we know what the basis is, what the requirements are, and I just hope for the best, but I think we're safer to do your budgets and all these planning without that. And I hope that we'll know that in the next few weeks, next couple of months, certainly, I would think.
They were talking about some of that money being discretionary, but it's discretionary within certain parameters. And we don't know what those
Yeah, and to
parameters
add to
are.
that, if I could, I'll be done, and I'm sorry to talk so much, but I think I want to educate everybody. You know, that first $2.2 trillion, all the money that was sent supposedly, and it was, to the states and all, literally not a dime of that, literally, helps almost any Virginia local government. Because we don't, unlike in New York City, that money was very specific for local governments to help with hospitals, help with overtime of police, fire, and rescue. And we're not really having a very meaningful amount. You might have a little bit, but it's so de minimis. That's not what the federal government in their big hatchet approach was. Let's help you big time. And then the next piece of the stimulus, another one, is every local government can go directly to the federal government if you have 1 million or more people in your government. We don't have, I think it was 2 million or more people, I forget what it was. Even Fairfax County, which is our biggest county, doesn't qualify for that. So we in Virginia don't even have a single government that qualifies for that next other piece. So we're waiting on this next part, which hopefully will be set up, that the state will then make some decisions or what have you that will help us. But I think it's best, if we get that and we don't count it, that's gravy. And that's the way we look at it.
On the school project, the 7.5 was accepted by the literary loan, correct?
We have that one.
What I think what
I'm
Mr. Booth is saying is we know we're gonna get inevitably,
Yes.
we're gonna get that piece.
But.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you said.
Well, where I was going, that other 7 million was denied. In other words, it's not part of the literary loan project.
Right.
Right.
They thought it was all one project.
All one project,
Correct.
and it's not gonna be separated. So do we look at interim financing
what
on the
both, yes.
7, or do we just look at permanent financing on the 7?
What we're looking at is all three.
Yep.
We're looking at
All three.
Yeah, we're looking at,
Okay.
the idea is interim financing on the 7, permanent on all 14 and a half, or just permanent on the 7, and then ultimately, when when the lit loan comes in, or not use the lit loan at all, doing permanent whenever we want. So the beauty of the lit loan approach is that the rate is very favorable, the timing is favorable, it's very flexible for us. That's why we're in the mode where we're saying nothing, we have no harm to go ask about taking that out, meaning to permanent.
And it may turn out if we get rates that are favorable, like you're talking about, we say, forget the literary loan, we'll just do it all.
And that's what we did in another county just a couple months ago. We said, thank you very much. But what we liked about, because you remember the literary loan, the way you pay it back is very front-loaded.
Right.
And it's kind of unfair to us being the county, because we don't have a lot of long-term debt. We pay our debts off quickly. So the front-loading it makes it even more painful. So from our perspective, we'd rather, more levelized.
Yeah.
So there's a number of factors. So I think, you've been through this before, Mr. Booth, we've been through it again, so hopefully with all this going on, maybe there's some positive here. But as long as the board knows that in this uncertain environment and the sizes we're talking about, we may not get something that we recommend, and we'll just see.
So, it seems that you have painted a very, very positive picture, David, and I appreciate that, but I know that you have never seen anything like this before. It's really not fair to compare it to 2008 at this juncture, because we don't know where things are gonna turn 48 hours from now, a month and a half from now. I guess I want to hear your thoughts on what happens if things don't prove out to be so well
Okay.
for us. I really need to hear that.
Okay, that's fine.
I want to hear both sides.
And I'm sorry if the sense was I've painted a positive picture. I think the positive that I've been trying to paint is two parts. And that is, number one, going through the process is positive.
Hold on, before you,
Yeah.
my question wasn't to say that you have ultimately painted too positive. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand how well our county is doing. I know that we have worked hard to get where we are today, to be able to be sitting here. I mean, I am glad we're not facing all those other problems that some of our neighbors are facing.
Which I work with, it's gonna be it's painful. It's
I
gonna be
mean,
difficult.
it is
Yeah.
painful for many people across the Commonwealth. I guess what I was asking is, I just want to know what your sense is if the bottom does fall out, if there are, I mean, we've got to ask those questions too, because if we don't have a balanced approach, if we don't know where we're going on either road, then I don't think we're doing our constituents the job that we need to do.
So let's take a look at, on the other considerations page 4, right there. Let's look at the 4 key revenue sources.
Right.
Real estate and personal property. That's basically it's a little over half.
Yeah.
So the question is, what would happen if something continues, gets worse, so to speak? My gut belief and experience is that the timing of people making those payments will slow down. But to a large degree, those dollars should be, anywhere to a large degree, should ultimately be coming to you as a county, okay? So that's the first belief, and that's generally the belief. Okay. Revenues from the Commonwealth, okay? And look at that footnote there, okay? Can the Commonwealth significantly cut you back? Absolutely, I guess. Certain things are mandated, what have you. But again, so pieces of that can be at risk. Okay. Then you have revenues from the federal government, and that was interesting. We went and talked about some of those revenues. A lot of those are, for lack of a better word, programs that are really required by the federal government to pay you and other communities. So they could slow it down, what have you, but I think that's probably a pretty pretty solid most of that source, all right? And then the other local taxes is the point you're talking about, I really believe. That's the bottom falls out. That's because, you know, for example, your lodging taxes are $60,000 last year. That can go down to 10,000, go down to 5,000, okay? Your meals tax, you started, you made some estimates, you did better than that, $250,000 out to more. That, again, will be a fraction in a bad situation. Then the sales taxes, again, elements of that can be a problem and will be a problem. So, you know, if bottom falls out, and this is really your call because it's your county, but if the bottom falls out, what does all those taxes go to half? We lose $1 million out of that. You know, if we lose $1 million from the state, we lose a portion from the federal government. That's really small dollars, I think. If we lose real estate, personal property, people slow down, and we lose $1 million. Let's assume that to me would be $3 million out of the 21 would be a bad fallout. Okay, worse than maybe we are thinking about. And you're right, I've never been through this, but I've been doing this for almost 40 years, 39 years. So I've seen some crises, I've seen things happen bad. Okay, so what does that really mean then? What it really means is you would undoubtedly have to come into 2022 fiscal year and probably raise some taxes, or to the extent you can, further cut the budget. And what would that look like? So what would look like is to be in a mode where probably your biggest driver is we'll call it the dollars you give to the schools, which are over and above the state's minimum required dollars amount. Now, no one's going to be happy, but you asked me, Ms. Kugelberg,
Yeah, I did.
you know,
Yeah.
what happens in all this? I don't want to get in trouble by schools and people coming up and thinking I'm suggesting that. I'm saying, but that's where the big dollars
Right.
are, that you have some room. Now, your neighbor, Patrick County, has none of this. They're at the minimum already. They're already a problem. You know that? I've been talking to them, okay? They have no choice but to do some other difficult things. You've got a little bit of combination of that. So that's sort of my answer for you. Now, let's assume, again, let's assume you go from 7 million and you're on the side, and you end up the year at 2020 with the audit that comes out next December, and it says you have about 6 million. And all things being equal, you're probably going to see, in that sort of bad case, you might end up 2021 $3 million short. And so your unassigned fund balance could end up at the end of 21, $3 million, half of where it is. And that would be, you know, it's possible, it could be better, it could be worse, that you asked.
Yeah, I did.
So,
I want to know.
So there it is. Now, the only positive on all this, with the school program, is that if indeed you do what is being asked, which has been talked about from day one, which is the 3 pennies, assuming no refinancing, then that little part of it, if you would, is covered. That takes the that takes the uncertainty out of that.
Well, it doesn't take the uncertainty out of the person that's lost their job
Right.
and can't pay an additional 3 cents. They're going to be barely able to pay any cents. So I'm taking a very long view of this. And I am trying to think of everybody when it comes to this. And
Well, again, your long view is a smart view. I think it's better to take a long view. But really what we're talking about here is a very short view.
I know.
We're talking the opposite.
I know.
Taking a long view, what you say to yourself is, okay, it's now the end of 2021 fiscal year, not just 2021 calendar year. We're way beyond all that. And you basically are in a mode then to know going into the 2022 fiscal year how to rethink and to be thinking about all this stuff.
if we don't look ahead, if we're not positioning ourselves as leaders of this county to look ahead to 2022, given the uncertainty that we're facing on April 14th of 2020, I think we do a disservice to our
Totally agree,
constituents.
and that's why I'm here, because, again, when I look at these revenues, I look at these sources, I look at things of this nature, you're really not relying on a bunch of growth to take care of things. You're not relying on one particular industry to be the driver. I mean, let's take a step back and look at where you're located.
Right.
You're located basically a stone's throw from one of America's great research engines that is really what is the engine for the Montgomery counties and for you, and Virginia Tech and all the spin-offs that you see. I don't see that changing. It might slow a little bit, something goes in and out, but that's a concerted effort that Tech has made, that the state is making, continues to make. Sure, maybe they slow down a project or two, but they're not stopping that. And then on top of that, you've got Roanoke down the road, and I work with Roanoke, I'm their advisor, and there's a lot of good stuff. And they know they're getting geared up for all the shortages, but prior to that, there's still been a growing area. A lot of good stuff. We met with the rating agencies by telephone, literally a week and a half ago, in this whole thing. And I feel like they have got a very good, realistic handle on 20 into 21. So I feel like some of those big elements that your citizens need for be it jobs, be it quality of life, I don't see that going away. You can have a bump in the road, but you said long-term thinking. You're not in an you may be idyllic and so lovely, but you're not isolated. There's no doubt. I know enough about the state, y'all, and and all that. So I guess long-term, I'm not as worried. Can it be bumpy for this year and next year and the year after? Absolutely. But once again, do you just pull the plug on a school project? That's not really thinking long-term. I don't think so. Especially when interest rates are at or near 50-year lows. Usually when the economy starts to ramp back up, rates start to ramp up. And you now it doesn't mean it will. Don't know that. I'm not an economist. And even if I was, I still would be wrong. But I think, big picture, I'll put it back on Terry and Cindy. Ultimately, they have to have some recommendations for you, since they know those revenues infinitely better than I do. But as I just look at them, and I look at the area, like I said, it is very possible you could eat into the unassigned fund balance in a very material way in the next year or so, or year and a half. And you'll have to do what most people do. You'll have to just build it back up.
Now, what about grants? If this stimulus,
Right.
or if this, so let's say we're on number 4 is what they're working on. Let's say 5, 6, or 7. And let's say there are definite, real infrastructure projects that have to do with schools. Are we able to get those monies, or are we, or did we already take our boat out of the slip and we're in the ocean and not able to get that funding?
Well, first, nobody can answer that. We have no idea. So let's go back to 2008 and 2009. And maybe you're alluding to this, because I remember that very well. They had the desire to get America back to work.
Right.
So they created and said, if your project is shovel-ready, sort of whatever, which meant if you hadn't started the project. Well, you've started your project already. I mean, that's just because, let's face it, it wasn't like any of us knew 6 months ago about COVID. I mean, there might have been a couple of people in the deep recesses of Washington, but it wasn't like all of us said, hey, listen, we kind of know there's problems in the world, and we said, no, we're not paying attention to it. Nobody in America. knew that. So it's just a matter of the timing. Having said that, I can't answer that. No one can. All I can do is not be criticized as your advisor for having you count on something that we have no idea
Right.
if we won't get a penny. And that's why we're not talking about it in terms of a potential revenue source. Don't know.
Right.
Nobody does. I do know, like I said, #1 program was no good to anybody of any city, county in Virginia. And I think this one's like the #4, I think, but don't hold me to it. And who knows if there's another one out. They're fighting over it now, but I just don't know. What we know is what they've said, just for everybody's benefit, is they said something to the effect, there'd be $150 billion in this program we're talking about that goes to all the states and then localities. I had read something the other day that said that Virginia was talking about state, I don't know if this is right or wrong, so I'm going, keeping 55% of that, and the local government's getting 45%. But that may not be right, don't remember it, so much stuff comes out, could be the opposite, it could be, who knows? So who knows, I just don't know. So,
And to this 7.1 of unassigned fund balance, out of that's what we pay our bills with to get reimbursed, isn't it?
yes, it is, that's right.
Yeah.
Which is why, and Cindy, for example, if I put you on the spot, at the low point, how low does that money get down to at the low point?
I was gonna say 3, but.
Okay,
yeah.
I was gonna say, so let's assume it's 3. So here's the challenge. So let's assume 21 is a really miserable year, worse than what y'all are planning and worse than what y'all thinking with all the, and you get down to that. It's very possible that Cindy and Terry call me and say, guess what? We need to do an emergency, we'll call it revenue anticipation note, tax, it's different names, all the same.
Been there, done
Been
that.
there, done that, haven't we, Terry?
And there's no wind to that, okay. But that's the downside of getting down to that number, which is very uncomfortable.
Well, I just wanted to bring that, I knew what you were saying, but in my terms, that's,
Yeah,
while it's unassigned, it's what we have to live on as
that's
well.
right.
That's
And
right.
that's part of why we tell local governments that you want to have considerably more than that. Because you live on that, and then you have uncertain surprises and unknowns like this.
Well, out of all the monies in there, we still have the 2.5 that we had originally designated for shell building. But see, we went ahead and did the financing on 3.5, so that kept that 2.5 in there. So that's a little cushion in there if we have to. I know we got some other projects associated with economic development we plan to use it to, but we.
Well, I like to discount.
There's a lot.
Right, I like to discount the cushion.
I said that 2.5 is part of that 7.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah, I know.
That's what I'm saying, I like to discount the cushion. I don't,
Right.
that's the whole point.
Well, I know, yes, don't count on the cushion, count on the solid, and then the cushion's there if you need it, but.
But I will say, and just to Ms. Goodwin's point, I really think 2021 is going to be a bad year financially for many local governments. Because I think, if you think about it, I don't think we're all of a sudden going to open up the economy come May 1st, June 1st, July 1st. And then you think about things like conferences, concerts, even restaurants. Are they going to open in phases? And could some restaurants say, if I have to be at 50%, let's say 50% capacity, I maybe can't afford to run that restaurant.
Right.
Yeah. And
Or they've
so-
got to restructure their business plan.
Exactly, so it's something we think about, which is why I'm saying I care so much about your number, and I think about hitting into your number. That's the idea.
One of the things that, Bob, concerns me the most, right now, it's really all about cash flow. And by us delaying our tax collections from June to August.
Correct.
We've got about a 2-month, our unrestricted revenue is about a 2-month operating supply and we will be eating all of our operating supply. That's why the refinancing really interests me, because anything we can do to lower our debt payments that are coming due would help us.
Or even to move, for example, if we're able to, call it a varsity shift, move a payment by effectively a few weeks or a few months into the next fiscal year, from 21 into 22,
It's gonna help.
that may cost us a little bit, a very small amount of interest, but it frees up what could be a bunch of dollars in 21. I don't know if we can do that, but we're gonna look at that.
Right.
That's the thinking of all that. So there's a bunch of things we're thinking about when it comes time to come back to you.
I don't see a problem moving forward with what you presented. As you said, we can always deny or whatever, if it looks like things are way out of whack than what we think. I don't have a problem moving forward with that what you presented, and let's see what's out there.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
So is that a consensus that we move forward on it?
Good to me.
Then
Well, it doesn't cost us anything, yeah.
We'll look at everything. Like I said, it may be a little longer coming back to you, maybe not, we'll see. Just allow us to be flexible and,
Well, we don't know what's happening a week from today.
well, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't
I mean,
it, well, you know, but wouldn't it be great, and we're not counting on it, if they said no matter what, irrespective of the timing of projects, that this county would get
Yeah.
$2 million, you know, just pick a number, $2 million, and for the moment, that, you know, whatever. But I just don't want to, we can't begin to look at it that way, and that's we're not. But I'd love to be able to come back and say, all right, well, sounds like we're eligible for some money to work.
And that's something we need to, when we're in conference calls with our federal representatives and they're putting this stuff together, be a good thing to bring up that, you know, we understand the shovel-ready project, but this has caught everybody off guard. You may have a locality that's already into their project. There should be some way to help them out as well. And I don't say that just because of our situation, it's just in general.
Well, our shovels aren't in the ground yet, so, I mean,
Right, you can't, you know, that you had to do it, you had to bid it out yet, you know, that's what.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
Right,
Yeah.
I get it, right. That's the danger, of course, and I don't blame anybody, when they're dealing with hundreds and thousands of local governments, they make global, you know, recommendations or
one size
strategies.
fits all.
One size fits all, and, you know, 'cause let's face it, I'd be shocked if they said, all right, every local government, come to Richmond and make your case, and there's a line of 250 governments between towns, cities, and counties. You couldn't get that all done in a year, listening to everybody, it just won't work. They're gonna have to end up sending, these are
Right.
parameters.
Yeah.
It's just like Richmond, when they put something out, they expect it to apply to Fairfax just like Lee County. It's even across, even though it won't work in Lee County and it won't work here.
Right.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I always say, you know, sort of, I work with Loudon, I work with Lee, and you can't get any more different, but yet the same rules, same thing for the literary loan.
Right.
It's $7.5 million for each local government per project. You know, they can go very far in Loudon County to build a school
When did they,
of 2,500 kids.
when did they put that in? Because when we did them projects before, there wasn't a limitation like that.
There was actually, Mr. Booth.
Oh, there
Yeah,
was, and we
Actually, it was
got
even
by?
lower, yeah.
We got by, okay, well, then keep my mouth shut.
No, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. You did, I'm gonna assure you, I know enough about it, you did it by the letter of the law.
Well, well, we did that $12 million project, and
Thank y'all. All right, we'll be back, and I appreciate it. Stay safe, and thank you.
Yeah, you too.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
See ya.
Take 2 minutes.
Huh?
Will it take 2 minutes?
Yeah, let's take a quick 2 minutes and be right back.
Thank you. Well, I need to stand up. Oh.
Twisting.
I have to apologize to people on Facebook, because this has been one day that we got to do a lot of closed sessions. And, so unfortunately, we're gonna have to go into closed session again. Under 2.23711A5 and A3, there'd be discussions concerning the prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcements has been made of the business or industry interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. So I'll take a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion second.
Did you say 5 and 3, or just 5?
Well, that's what my,
Five and
Three
three.
and five.
3 and 5. I just want to make sure I knew which one.
Ms. Cookham?
Yes?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Terman?
yes,
Motion carries.
we've been in closed session. All righty, we're ready to come out of closed session. I'll take a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second?
Got a motion and a second?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Cookham?
Yes?
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Terman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Take a certification motion that we only discuss those things that we went into closed session for.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, please.
Ms. Cookham?
I so certify.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Terman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
She pulled a slipper in that
Oh,
down.
yeah.
I hadn't heard you say that in a long time.
He hadn't for a while. I'm gonna stand up a minute if it's all right with you.
So,
You can continue right on. I'm gonna take for a second.
what's the motion we need?
So you have a contract proposal in front of you from Urban Profit to begin the work at the Commerce Center. Good with that? A motion to approve this contract, authorize me to execute it.
So moved if you're ready.
I'm ready. So I got a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Motion and second, any other discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Cookham?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Terman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
So, moving down to I. Budget work session, what y'all's pleasure on this?
Without Mr. Yoder here,
Y'all want to schedule one maybe next week or so?
what about this week? We got any time this week?
I have no times.
No time.
I'm covered as well.
Next week's gonna be, well, on Wednesday, we got that CPMT meeting at 3.
What day is that?
Other day.
So we're not gonna work on the budget at all?
Well,
If you wanted to do it earlier, since you're here anyway, we could do it earlier and then go to
didn't go
CPMT.
to that meeting.
What day is that?
That was
Wednesday?
one wait till Mr. Yoder's was here.
I hope maybe we're all kind of mulling this thing over and coming to, should have some
Yeah.
direction on
Yep.
where we're headed.
Well, before we went through the budget the last time, did we really change the outcome that much?
It was what, 500, the one I gave you is the latest. There's a lot of things yellowed.
That we
Yeah.
hadn't made a
You
decision,
haven't made a
but
decision.
on the bottom line, did we change, we didn't really change it a whole heap on that, did we?
Well, we didn't have a final number before, and now I think it's 564,000 in the hole.
Yeah.
And what I did was where you had it yellow or green, hadn't made a decision, but Terry had made a recommendation. I used Terry's number, but where she had not put in anything, I didn't put in anything.
Gotcha, so you left the color there.
I left the
Right.
color
Gotcha.
there.
And on the revenue side, that's based on what number per penny? Still
It's still at 60 cents.
at 60? I just wanna make sure I understood.
Of course, we added the rec building in lower that cost some.
Right.
Down to about 175,
Which
just in case.
60 would be 3 cents over, because
Over the effective tax
yeah,
rate.
the effective was 57, right?
I think I'd probably put it down to 150.
Okay.
Do you think? Okay.
So that would bring us down to 510 or 514. There were two things I remember we had contention on, that was Fairview Homes and Blue Ridge Bridges. And that was the only thing really we was,
Oh, there's quite a few things that were yellowed in there.
You got the Blue Ridge, there's several smaller ones that were in there that we left and never did make a decision on too.
you know, some of them was green, some was yellow.
The yellow ones is the ones we didn't make a decision on, or?
I think it was both yellow and
And
green.
And green, oh, okay.
So
We'll go
there's
back and
there's
look
a
at
few,
it again.
there's a few ones.
So what time Wednesday?
First of all, when are we, the 22nd?
Yeah, we got a CPMT meeting that evening at 3. So if we started at 12.
I'll go earlier if we need to.
I was hoping they could take an early lunch. We could start at 12 and
If we start at 11, we get one.
I'm talking about them, I'm gonna eat before I get here.
Oh, okay.
Or 10.
We can buy their lunch too.
Yeah.
So we're saying the 22nd.
If that's okay with everybody else.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
12 o'clock, or 1 o'clock, or what time?
12 would be fine. Right.
And y'all will eat before,
Yeah.
y'all will work it
We're
out.
fine. Second.
Y'all have a meeting when at 3?
Yeah, we got it.
So we know we'll be done pretty much by April 22nd, 12 o'clock.
Mhm.
Now, and then we meet again on the
28th.
28th.
That's when we need to have some information to you.
Right.
That's,
Should we meet another day that week?
I think we see how Wednesday goes personally.
Yeah. I feel like it will know on the 22nd what we need to do, and then we can probably get another day in.
I think we're pretty close.
Yeah.
I've got hopes that we can maybe be wrapped up Wednesday. If we work on
I
it.
don't see where we have a lot of opposition on any other.
I think there was only the two things that were, like you said, that, you know, we had a little, we're debating a few things on, and everything else that were green or yellow that we just didn't, we were waiting to see what the
Unless
bottom
we
line
wanna-
looked like.
Unless we want to cut some more.
Well, we got 3 hours to beat that horse.
and maybe we'll know a little more about what the state's doing by then. When are they reconvening?
It's the 22nd, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, they're reconvening that day, so I guess we'll see where we're at then, and then we may have to be prepared for a long meeting Tuesday night. Depending on what the state's doing.
I'm not very optimistic on anything the state's gonna do.
Well, I'm not either, not with what I'm seeing on some of the recommendations and stuff.
We still have a couple of departments that want to speak with you, so we'll schedule those that night. Or the 22nd. Would you rather do it on the 28th?
Yeah, I think the 22nd, we better just hopefully.
Buckle down.
Yeah.
Buckle down and stick to the budget and get a game plan together. And then on the 28th, and make some
Change our
kind of
mind.
official decision.
Who's coming to talk?
Electoral board and registrar.
It's a,
Electoral board
Is-
and registrar?
How about they send us their, I mean, are they just gonna talk about what they already sent us? Or are they gonna ask for increases due to the
Who's that?
electoral board and registrar, due to
They had-
the paper
They had
ballots?
one other issue they wanted to talk to you all about.
Oh, okay.
you know, the way it goes, after the meeting, you not even need any of them, probably just cancel the whole election.
And I guess
That would be nice.
the 28th, whatever we decide, then if we advertise max, we can go down without having to have another budget hearing or a tax hearing.
Right.
And then
If we don't
ultimately-
what? If we don't what?
We'll see, like if we advertise, say we have to go with advertised 3-cent increase, that's what we decide to do, we advertise, we have our budget hearings, by that time we've heard back from Davenport, we need,
We see where the state's going, and we can go down.
and we can always go down without having another public hearing.
Right.
But if something happens in between now and then, we decide we need to go up, then we gotta reschedule a public hearing. So whatever we decide for the public hearing, I think we need to be high so we can come down. That gives us that leeway. But I really think that the refinancing and the other, I think we might be able to come in at 2 cent on the school projects instead of 3.
Maybe.
I'm just.
Yes.
Yeah, we keep the three, put the rest of it in savings.
Well, or buy a fire truck. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that plays into it right now, that we already know that next year we're looking at a fire truck, definitely. So if we don't do that one this year, we're gonna be doing 2 next year,
That's gonna hurt.
And an ambulance,
and an ambulance, so, you know,
possibly two.
and possibly 2, and putting a box on it, a new box on another one. So,
And a trash
well, yeah, you got a trash truck, I mean, everything's hitting at the worst possible time it can hit.
We've gotta be creative and try to find ways to keep going, or we're gonna pay dearly later.
Now, the one hope is with this 4th stimulus bill, that local governments are giving them some cash that they have some leeway with for infrastructure purchases or capital purchases. And that's what I'm gonna be emphasizing whenever I talk to any of our federal representatives, that in the future, that's what's killing right now, is the normal capital cost along with the operating cost.
Yeah.
And anything they can do to help us out, but it's gotta funnel through the state, agreed?
And there you go, there's your funnel.
Yeah.
And always when it gets to the bottom, we get the little drip and everybody else up
Well,
north is only got the big
You
drip.
wait and see what he said, come out, the state ends up keeping 55 to 60% of it, and then funneling
At least,
at least.
yeah. So, you know,
That's the problem.
we in Southwest Virginia, we really need stepchild.
Oh, yeah.
Have any of you got your personal stimulus checks yet?
I don't know, our check came to Mary's bank account.
Didn't you like the way they did that? A lot of the banks were closed Monday, so the banks got to sit on that money. If it came out Saturday, it went into the bank's coffers. The bank got interest on that money for 3 or 4 days before they put it into people's accounts.
No, I knew of people who got it and got it right into their accounts on
Yeah,
Saturday.
Mine's supposed to come
Right.
tomorrow.
Saturday.
Yeah, but
Well, it
How
did
would they
post,
base
they
it?
did
Huh?
memo, they're memoed. But
they're
they don't-
memos, but they're not actually posted until the bank's
$2,400 for a
open.
berry
Which some of them didn't open until this
How do you
morning.
instruct
That's
it
the way
so you know how
it
you did it?
memoed Saturday.
Right.
Because, you
It's
know,
not.
It was pending.
me and Mary was wondering if we would even get it, being both of us is retired.
Yeah.
But
We did.
and see, that was the slick part of that.
With the amount of
The
money
bank's
we
got
paid
them.
in taxes today, still, we better.
It was pending, it went into the bank's coffers, and the bank's got interest on it for 3 or 4 days before it goes out to.
Keep paying your taxes, will you?
Yes, sir. I want to keep my little piece of heaven up there. Yes. So I guess what I need is a motion to adjourn till April the 22nd at 12 noon.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
I said,
And everybody said yes.
Yes,
thank you all.
thank you.
Roll the credits.